Good morning, evening, afternoon, night, wherever you are in the world. Chunt, you're on my body clock. This is weird. Welcome to episode 77 of the Let's Talk Game podcast. I'm Jamie. Over there is Dan. In the middle is the man in the middle himself, Uncle Chunt. This is going to be a really short, impromptu, off-the-cuff episode because jack shit happened this week. We've all been busy boys, so let's just have a conversation and catch up and have a chat about the world in which we've lived. Is everybody okay, first and foremost? Chunt, you've just been telling us about working nights and therefore not getting any sunshine in your life. But other than that, are you doing all good?
Yeah, look, I'm already pale as hell, right? It's like I lived a hermit life before I started working night shift. And I do fear that I'm going to turn into one of those geckos where my skin's see-through and I can see everything because I'm not getting any sun. That'd be very interesting.
That would be alarming.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. But I've got 3 days off, or I guess you can call it 4. But the 4th day, I really need to sleep again. So I'm looking forward to just chilling out and doing nothing. But playing games, man. How about yourself?
You are a certified gamer. I'm just snowed under with work and life and children, and trying to fight off an illness. I'm feeling a lot better, but the kiddos are still not super good.
You sound a lot better.
Yeah, game time has been limited. Yeah, not like I've been smoking like 40 a day. But yes, we get there. And Dan, you've got some lovely disc plates on your wall that you were just talking to us about and planning to get some more.
Yeah, I do.
How's your life?
Yeah, I'll just flip to the one. Life's going really good. It's all small little things fixing up the house now, but always time for video games. Trying to diversify, but it's not really working, but I'm trying. You just get stuck in one, and you're like, John, I don't know how you jump around so much. Like, I'm actually in awe of it a lot of the time. Because I just get stuck into one, and I'm like, I can't get off this. Now I want to start watching movies that are of the same genre. I'm like, oh, do I watch that or that? And it's just, it envelops me.
Well, that's worth discussing, actually, because I've had a quandary of recent times where, the whole backlog thing that everybody goes through. And I've had a serious backlog issue for quite some time. But you said, jumping around a bit, I mean, Sarah's helped me in that because she's made me play games that I would never have picked up, and just games that we could play together that I wouldn't have bothered to touch. So that's one thing, but my backlog is getting smaller because I'm just smashing through stuff. And I'm finding that I'm not wasting too much time on some games. Like, I was really into Recall, right? Like, last week I talked about it and I was enjoying it. And Super Lucky's Tale I started playing, which I was really enjoying. Like, it's such a chill-out platformer. Like, I think a lot of people glossed over it because it's like, it looked a bit generic. But when I started playing it, it's a lot of clever level design, and it wasn't challenging. And it was just like the right kind of platformer I needed at the time. And I was bouncing between Recall and Super Lucky's Tale on my own free time when I'm not playing games with Sarah. But yesterday, I just went, you know what? No, I'm good. I just uninstalled those two, even though I was enjoying them. Because I've got, on Xbox, you can create your groups and you can add pins to your groups and shit. So I've been using those to organize my game times and stuff. So I've got one that's just my backlog, like dedicated to my backlog. Then I've got one for my go-tos and one for games for Sarah and I and shit. So my backlog one, it's always in the back of my mind of like, it's just so long, and it's a visual representation of like how many games I've got to play and to get through, right? So I've been finding myself going, all right, if I'm over a game or if I'm just out to a point where I feel like I've played enough of it to get it, where I don't think I'll get more out of it, or, I've played enough to understand what this game is. Then at that point, I'm just like out and I'll move on to the next one. That's like one way I've been bouncing through so many games, because there are lots of games that I want to get to, like Valhalla, man, because Assassin's Creed Valhalla, another reason I'm trying to smash through my backlogs, I want to get clear so I can just play that and just live in that game. So, yeah, I guess this is kind of like a rudimentary way to make it a topic, but you guys also have a lot of games to go through. I know, like, Jamie, you've been playing a shitload of stuff lately as well, but is it just me? It's just me, or I'm like, a timer goes off in your head, you're just playing like, yeah, this game is awesome, this is really great, bing, all right, next. You know, like, did you have those kind of things going on recently, or is it just me?
No, that happens to me all the time. Like it's you'll sit and you'll invest and you're like, this has got me. And then, you know, all it takes is putting it down for a day or two. And then all of a sudden that is like, I can't really be asked to go back to that. Or it's, yeah, maybe it's not quite got me as much as I thought it did. That tends to happen. You know, if you start of a weekend, it's like, oh, I've got some hours I can put in this weekend. It's like, you start and you're like, oh, I'm in it. And then by the next day, it's like, yeah, maybe not. I'd rather do. And I think if you get to that situation where it's like, and don't get me wrong, that comes with getting older. You know, you having that like, I'd rather do this. Like, what would I would rather go and do something that's not game related, or do you know what I mean? Like, there's this movie that I want to watch, or it's like, I would rather do this with my time. And I think that's why it kind of dovetails with what you're saying, but I don't buy the amount of games that I used to, because I do have other stuff going on. It's like, it'd just be a waste of money. I can't think of the last thing I really had it with, to be perfectly honest. I know, like you say, yeah, I've smashed through a lot of stuff recently as well. Probably, what was that really short game? The dude with the guitar. I can't think of his name. Chunt, you played it recently as well.
Oh, what's the Artful thingy? What is it?
Artful Escape.
Artful Escape, yeah. Oh, that was really good.
Yeah. So like, I was playing that over a weekend. I was like, this is really, really excellent. It's really well done. And I know it's only sort of, is it 4 or 5 hours long? It's not even a long experience. But I'm in the third part of that. So I think I've got one more bit to go after the bit I'm in now. And it's like, I just sit down. It's like, there's football on. I'd rather watch the football, or you know, New World came out, which, you know, we've not quite hit what we've been playing yet, but spoiler, it's literally only New World. So there's something like that's that size that's got me hooked, and it's taken me away from other stuff. I mean, I mentioned last week about it taking me away from Kenner, but I guess that as well. Like, I played the first 4 hours of that in one sitting and was like, this is the tits. It's what I want. But I've had absolutely no inkling to go back to it. And I think there is an element not only of, you know, like you're saying, oh, next, like, has it really grabbed you? But mate, we're getting old. We're getting older. There's stuff that we'd rather be doing. Like, we have to acknowledge that. I mean, a lot of people, even I remember being a kid and like, you know, parents going, you won't be playing games forever. And or, you know, you should be growing out of playing games by now. And it's like, well, no, they've been a very big part of my life since I was literally 3 years old. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I do find, you know, as I've especially becoming a parent and things like that I've got far less time for it. Like, not that I don't want to. I'd love to have a completely free weekend and sit and do something. Like, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, but seeing the trailers and stuff from Fandome this weekend, like for the DC games and stuff, is like, I was like, I've still never finished Arkham Origins. I own it on PC, and it's like, I think I've still got my last save in my Steam library as well, and it's like, I want to go finish that, but then I'd sit down and go, I could go farm some trees in New World. And that's what I end up doing. So it's like, do I really want to spend my time doing that? Don't get me wrong, I have no idea why I'd rather farm trees in New World than pretend to be Batman. Like, in my brain it goes, go be Batman, but then you sit down and go, gonna go be a lumberjack for the afternoon. But no, that's my kind of take on that. I do get it, but I think it's a lot more to do with not necessarily having this backlog of stuff that at the time you were like, oh, I want to get to that. So like you said, you pin it to your backlog, and then 2 years pass and you're like, I'm not really interested in playing that anymore. I find that the hype cycle as well is big.
Oh, yes.
Like, imagine if, like, I'll use New World because it's what I've been playing, but if that came out 3 weeks ago now, it would be 3 weeks. If I'd only just be sitting down to start that now, it wouldn't have got me, because I started at the starting blocks with everybody else, and if game of that, you know, everybody's progressing at the same. Don't get me wrong, people have flew off to the races and their max levels, and this happens in these games all the time. But there are still people that are taking their time, they're building through it, and it's like, you know, you're in the world and you see other people that are it's like you're progressing together. There's that hype cycle and the togetherness of playing something like that. That's important. It's like, you know, some of the games that we've played, we wish when we all played Spider-Man at different times. Like, imagine how much better of an experience that would have been if we'd have all played it at the same time. And the way that and the nuance could have been around it. Dan played it like a year before I did, and I played it about 3 months before you did. Like, there's a lot of these different elements to it, so don't feel like you're going crazy, mate. Like, you're not. Like, it's just literally, 1, you're getting older. 2, you probably weren't really that interested in the game and you bought out of hype, and 3, you haven't played it across the hype cycle, and now it's just a bit redundant. Like, unfortunately, video games have become a live medium. And whether that's a live medium through conversation, like, I think the only video game we've ever all sat and actually played the week it came out to then sit and talk about it was Avengers.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we all had very different experiences with that, but it made for a way better conversation because we were all there day one, did it together, and experienced that. And the best time we've probably all had together is when we played the demo for Outriders. Again, we all did it. We all played together. We did cross-play, and it was like, this is cool. Do you know? Or when we were trying to do Gears, and it's like Dan just had to be a robot for the whole time. But, do you know what I mean? It's like
really
these experiences, but that's what I mean. You sit there and you get that memory, and it's like, that's really good. I think the way that we consume games has changed massively from when we were kids. So there are several factors, John. It's not just you sitting down going, am I just bad at games now? Do I just not want games now? It's like, there's an element of that, yeah, for sure. But I think something's really got to take your fancy to get through it these days. The last time I sat down on something, I literally just knotted it out over like 4 days, was Breath of the Wild. Since then, I have not sat down and just pumped 80 hours into a game over the course of a week. Like, don't get me wrong, I could afford the time to do it then, but still.
Yeah.
I think I also tend to, when I'm playing the games, like respect the game's time when I want to play it. Like that's the thing with Kena. Like I don't want to just get through Kena just to get through Kena so I can like tick it off. I want to like sit down and take my time in the certain village or parts of that game. So I'm, paying respects to the people that made it in a way in my head as I'm playing it, and therefore tend to be more selective with the games that you play. And you have to be in a certain mood. So like right now, I'm on the Red Dead Redemption train, and that train is going to go for 80 hours or however long it took me to beat it the last time. So I could have played like 60 Kenas in that time, but but that being said, if I went away for a week and came back to Red Dead, would I have the same motivation like I am now? Trying to play it, and I'm just going around and appreciating the world and just talking to the strangers throughout that world and doing stuff I wouldn't have done on my previous play, because the previous play, while I was taking in a lot of it, I was also trying to finish that game because I was so excited to play it, whereas now I've played that game before and I know how it all goes, and I know at a certain point that something happens to the character, so I'm trying to do a lot of stuff before that point happens to the character. And yeah, I'm having a great time. But now I'm wanting to watch like Western films and that because I'm just in that zone. And going from that to Kena is like a huge like whiplash moment where I wouldn't be able to do that. So my backlog is huge. But see, Chun, you have all the images of all the games that you want to play. I can't do that because I think that will stress me out. So my thing will be, I'm in a mood. What's a game that I haven't played that is like that, like the mood that I'm in, and then I'll go find it. And if it's on sale or if it's a PlayStation Plus game or something like that, I'll get onto it. But yeah, I've been playing Red Dead.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like I make those, I pin them to my dash because if I buy them in particular, I don't want to forget that I've bought that game, because I sit there waiting for games to go on sale for ages. Like Mega Man X collection 1 and 2 were on sale last week, and I bought the first collection because it's the first 5 Mega Man X games, and I'm like, I'm really in a Mega Man X mood for some reason, and that just happened to be on sale. I was like, yep. So I pinned that straight to my backlog, because I'm like, I'll get to that one day. And
yeah, but if you're in that mood, you should play it then and there, like.
Yeah, but see, I was already in the middle of other games. See, that's the problem. It's a real first world problem we're discussing here.
Yeah, but if you're
a real one.
But if you're searching for other games to play, you're obviously not in the mood to play the games that you're playing.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it's almost a war with your own psyche, and that's what I was trying to explain. Like, I agree with Dan wholeheartedly. If you're in the mood for something, you pick it up and you do it there and then. I did that with the first Horizon. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I got to a point where it was like, it had been out for maybe coming up a year, and it's like, no, like I had some trading credit. It was at EB Games in Australia. I was like, I've got some trading credit. I was like, the PS4 Pro's out. I was like, they've got some good deals on it. I was like, I'll pick it up now because I'm really in the mood for something like Horizon, because it came out way too close to Zelda for me to even pay attention back then.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
But then look at that. I didn't finish it. The last mission. I stopped the game when I was in the last mission. I didn't finish it until like last summer or something.
I remember that. Yeah, I want to play Horizon again. Oh, I finished it.
Yeah, I was in. It turns out I was in the last mission, and it took me 40 minutes to finish it.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things that you do have to jump in and play it when you're kind of ready to, or when it's there, or something strikes your fancy and takes it. I'm waiting for something for Red Dead to do that to me, incidentally, Dan, because for the longest time I played that on a Xbox One S, and it's like, you know, playing it on a really small screen. I was like, I'm not enjoying this how it's supposed to be enjoyed. So I always had it in my head that it's like, you know, when I can put it on like the OLED and sit and just be in that world. But the reality is, when you've got 2 children, mate, you don't have time to just sit.
I was actually thinking about that during the week. I forgot to message you guys about it. Like a game like Red Dead, I'm like, Jamie, this is just not the game for you at all. Like I literally wouldn't recommend it just because of the pace of it and how long you're gonna have to be there. Chunt, I think you would like it, but you'd have to be in the mood to play that type of game. Like you have to, you'd be in the mood to be like, hey, this is the only game I'm playing for the next 4 weeks, and it's just take your time. Once you got past the first 2 hours or something.
But by that same notion, I think I'm about 10 or 15 hours into it. I made a good dent when I first started it, and I was really, really enjoying it. But like you just said, like it's not the. But then you're talking to somebody who sat here and put, I'll check, but I'm pretty sure like 50 hours into an MMO in the last 3 weeks. So I probably could get through something like Red Dead.
Yeah. It's a different vibe. It's the same reason why I don't think like The Last
Such a different vibe
is necessarily your type of game either, because you tend to go for games that are more like Twitch based and fast paced, whereas these games are intentionally slowing you down, telling you to like the aim is not to get through this quickly, and those games tend to not like, basically. So
well,
no. I mean, I start. Go ahead, chump.
Oh, like to add to the whole too many games problem, Game Pass. It's like it's a blessing and a curse, because particularly like now, like playing games with Sarah, we're always trying to find something to play together on Game Pass, and so we find all these games that come out like every month. There's new games and shit on Game Pass, so you add those on top, and I'll eventually get to my games that I play on my own. But even then, like Game Pass has games that I go, oh, I'm going to play that. Oh, I'm going to play that, and I just keep adding them. So, you know, a real first world problem again. Like the Game Pass is an amazing service. I can't believe how good it fucking is. But at the same time, it's like, well, yep, there's more games. Like Halo Infinite's coming out, and Horizon 5 is coming out, you know, next month. So there's two more big games to add to the whole thing. And like the what we've been playing aspect of the usual conversation is Back 4 Blood launched finally, and wow, we've been smashing that. Like just Sarah and I just going through the campaign. I think we're on the third chapter out of 4 already, and we're having such a blast with that game. But I probably wouldn't have played that on my own. You know, like it's just one of those things. Like I know I'm probably the only one here that kind of does play frequently with someone, let alone a significant other, with video games anyway. But
Giggity.
Yes, but I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, like it's just there are times when I'm like, man, I would just like to not have Game Pass for a bit and actually go through the games that I've bought, you know, because I don't think it'd be that much of a problem where. Like a lot of the tiles that I have, it's always like the Game Pass logo in there, and it's just more games just get added from that service. And then games with gold, like Code Veronica X just got released for games with gold this month, and this other game called Hover, which is like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio from the Dreamcast era, where you know you're skating around and graffitiing and shit with cool funky music and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Like I've wanted to play Jet Set Radio for a while, and this game looks like it's pretty much the same thing. So I claim that. It's just 2 more games, you know. Man, massive problems that I'm having in my life. Yeah.
Well, on that note, and about 20 minutes into the show, shall we just touch on what we have been playing? I know we've all mentioned something that we have been playing. Has anybody been playing anything else? Dan, you start anything other than Red Dead?
No, Madden and golf, just the typical sports games. It's weird having 2 sports games going on at once though, because I'm playing Madden, I get really frustrated, and then I go play golf, which is a nice like before I go play Red Dead, it just calms me down because it's just so serene because you're just hitting the golf ball down the course, and I'm like, okay, now I'm relaxed.
Change of pace.
Yeah.
Nice. I know you've mentioned a few things that you've played there, but has anything actually gripped you this week, or has it just been Back 4 Blood?
Back 4 Blood. It's been the main thing that's been smashing us, but played a bit more Destiny 2. Man, that's I like I've said earlier last week or something. I forget how bloody good that game is. But we tried Dead by Daylight, which we had one match in, and we just quickly uninstalled it. Like Dead by Daylight, if you don't know what that is, it's that horror game where it's like you play as either a survivor or the killer, and you've got to, like, if you're a survivor, you've got to kind of repair all these generators and find a way to escape the killer that's going around.
Right.
And it's an online multiplayer game, so it's like a asymmetric multiplayer kind of experience. Anyway, we played one match and it was shit, and we just got out of it because, I mean, the killer, you can't stop the killer, you can't kill the killer, and if you get caught by the killer, he just pins you up on a hook, and you can't get off the hook until someone comes to get you, and you're like, this is fucking, I'm out. Which is funny because one other guy got pinned on a hook. I didn't really realize what was going on because it was like my first game, right? And I was like sneaking around a level trying to repair a generator, and I could see like the red outline of a dude like struggling off in the distance. I'm like, that guy's been over there for a long time. Anyway, so I get an Xbox message from this guy saying, just going off at me about like, how about you fucking come over and get me off this hook, you dickhead? I'm like, whoa, all right. I'm like, lol, nah, I'm good. Anyway,
online
Minecraft. I finally tried Minecraft. I booted the game up and created a level. It's like all snowy mountains and like log cabins and shit because I'm totally there. And they were offering like this free like Norse character package, so I got that as well. And I got in the game. I'm like, what do I do?
Whatever
There's no quest.
Whatever you want.
I wasn't prepared. Like I know the game's been out for like 200 years, but this is the first time I'm actually trying to play it by myself, and I was like, all right, I'll figure this out. And I started wandering around. I found some like armor and shit, and then I found a village. I'm like, all right, oh look, a massive cave. I'm like, okay, I think I know where I'm going with this game. Where it's gonna I'll get lost in it. I want to experience it because it's one of those games that's it's one of the biggest games on the planet. And I want to know why. Kind of thing. It's always been an interest in my back of my mind of going, why is it so huge? Why was it worth $2.5 billion? But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to give that a go. I played this independent Aussie game called Stone, where it's like $7. It was on sale, and I've eyed it off for a while because it looked interesting. And he plays this koala he looks like a rough kind of stoner kind of giant koala looking dude, and he's a private detective or private investigator or whatever. The story ends up going nowhere near where I thought it was going to go. The trailer looked like it was going to be a bit more entertaining than it turned out to be. Like, it's a low budget game, but it was intriguing enough for me to continue playing through it. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just don't know, right? And I was lucky it didn't cost too much. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's, I don't know, might be listening for whatever reason and has been interested in it as well. Just be aware the trailer is misleading and the story is just not exactly where it says it's going to go. The other one is Torchlight 3. Sarah and I have been smashing through that game. That's actually a very good game. It's all the mechanics are really good. It's like scratching that Diablo itch that I've had for a while, and I don't want to buy a Diablo 2 for obvious reasons. But this is doing it for us so far, and we've gone back to another game called Deep Rock. Deep Rock, what's it called? I don't know.
Galactic.
Yeah, Deep Rock. Yeah, that's it. Deep Rock Galactic. It's you have to play it with someone, right? It's a very charming game, and I've spoken about it before. And you're just in space, and you're a bunch of space dwarves going down to asteroids and mining them, and then you've got to survive like these insect hordes that find you, and you've got to gather resources, and you're just drilling all the way down, and you've got to make your way all the way back up when you're time to go, and it gets quite hectic, but very, very charming and very, very fun, mechanically enjoyable. And there's a reason why Sarah and I have reinstalled this game a few times, because we check out on it, but then we come back to it because it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's about it. And yeah, Back 4 Blood. But there was another game that I totally forgot to mention, but I've already spoken about too many games. See, more problems.
All right, Jamie probably
now.
has your gamer score up there on the screen or something. Just checking.
Yeah, probably.
I don't. Not this week. Chunt's keeping track of himself. Okay, I'm not in any competition with you this month to try and achieve gamer scores. So
I'm like
don't really need
almost 2,000 ahead of you or something. Last time I checked.
Fair dues. You can very much have this month. Yeah, I don't think I've played anything on Xbox other than a couple of games of FIFA for a while, since pretty much all my time has been spent in New World. Well, that's what we've been playing. As I said, there's nothing really too much that happened this week. I'm on super short time span today as well, so I think the rest of the show we just maybe touch on the trailers from the DC Fandome. This is a video game show though, so let's start there. We did get to see more of both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. Initial observation is I'm very shocked that they're both coming out in the same year. I bet that doesn't happen. I almost guarantee that doesn't happen. No actual dates on either of them other than 2022. So let's start at Gotham Knights. Chunt, you kick us off. What's your vibe of Gotham Knights now you've seen a little bit more of it?
It's looking a lot more more better is bad English, but it's looking a lot better than it did at last look. I was actually quite surprised graphically as well, and it just looks like it's running a lot better. I'm very much more intrigued with it. And the Court of Owls, that whole thing is an amazing story, and it's a relatively new one in the DC actual comics lore, like in the last 5 or so years. So it's pretty crazy how that's been taken up. Like there's movies and shit about it already and games, but conceptually I'm interested because they point out again that Bruce Wayne's dead in this world, or at least dead. Like they show a picture of his grave in the trailer and all that. So I'm interested to see like the dynamic between the Bat family without a Batman, and just see how they tackle that, and like how they get access to Bruce Wayne's resources, to keep doing what they're doing. Like I hope they kind of address that, and like the Court of Owls is there purposely as the antithesis to Batman and what he stands for. Because they've been like this secret organization under Gotham City like forever, and this is like the first time they've finally come out because they're ready to strike as a predator, so to speak, like being owls of the predator to a bat, that kind of thing. So I'm very interested in the lore aspect and how the story plays out. Gameplay wise, I'm still kind of worried I'm going to have an Avengers experience with this, but I'm optimistic more than I was before. But yeah, looks really good. Can't wait.
What about you?
I don't think with either game anything really moved the needle on me. I think Gotham Knights is probably going to try and aim for that similar date, like from last year, like around June. But I don't think they want to put a date on it until they absolutely know. I think Suicide Squad will absolutely get delayed. Gotham Knights, like the trailer was cool, but I didn't learn anything new about it. Really, we pretty much had most of the information. I think Penguin was like the steal of the whole DC Fandome, which he was in both the trailers for the games, and he's also in the Batman trailer as well. So I just find it funny he keeps popping up. Suddenly he's become this like big villain to pop in everywhere. But yeah, with the Gotham Knights, I think it will be. I think I will play it. I'm not as worried with the co-op side of things in that game than I am, say, with Suicide Squad. But yeah, nothing really like moved the needle for me. Like I didn't. Well, yeah, because there were some gameplay trailers, but I only really watched the story trailer, so I'll probably just hold off a little bit more. I want to see more when we get closer to the release, whenever that is.
Okay, well, for me, I agree a bit in terms of it not moving the needle. I think Gotham Knights was the one of the two that I was more interested in when we first saw them. Was it last year's Fandome when they first both got kind of shown? Yeah. We obviously knew about Gotham Knights before that, but yeah, the gameplay, it just looks like another Arkham game, which I think anybody would be happy with. It does look to have had, like you said, Sean, a bit more of a better lick of paint. Again, terrible English from me there. much more of a better lick of paint. My brain's completely fried. It does know. It looks pretty. It looks like it's had a bit of an overhaul graphically, which hopefully is indicative of, say, like next gen performance and not just like it's just been run on some crazy beast PC. Interesting to see whether Batman does rock up. I've got a feeling from, when they were kind of showing things like, with like Batgirl having the Court of Owls mask on and stuff like that. I think there is even a point during the trailer where it's like you see a villain, someone that you're intended to fight, and they're kind of perched atop of like something in like a pose, like Batman would be perched on top of one of those things, and it looks a bit like Scarecrow nightmarish like type of vibe, and it's like he's definitely in this game. He's not dead. I mean, he's there. Whether he's being forced to be a part of the Court of Owls, which I think is quite interesting, and not to deviate too much away, because I do think the story for this game will probably be its strong suit. I don't think they're going to have done anything too revolutionary with gameplay. I think people will be leaning on the story side of it for the big enjoyment side. Everybody does, as you said, Chunt, seem to love Court of Owls as a story. I really enjoyed the animated movie. I thought that was great. I watched that years ago. Really, really, really well done, and it is quite dark. But did you see on the trailer for the Batman movie, which I think these games are actually going to try? This game's going to try and hit not long after that film comes out.
Synergy.
I think it's going to be early. Yeah, because it capitalize while it's there, right? So the gauntlets that Pattinson's Batman has is very resemblant of the gauntlets that are worn by the Court of Owls. Yeah, it's like I didn't spot that. I was watching through some reaction stuff yesterday, and it's like it was brought up by a few people, and it was like they put the side by side, and it's the Court of Owl style gauntlets. So in the movie, is he maybe trained by the Court of Owls, similar to how Ra's al Ghul he was a member of the League of Shadows in the Nolan trilogy, but in the game it's like the Court of Owls are also a part of it. So are they going to kind of do that synergy thing there where they're part of both of these worlds? But it's really cool to see it being explored. I think it's a genuinely although it's a modern Batman story, it's a good modern Batman story.
It's one of the best, most rich like additions to the Batman lore in recent memory, the whole Court of Owls thing.
It's so I mean, even good. I don't know if you guys watch, and again we're moving way away from video games here, but did either of you watch Gotham like through to completion?
First 3 seasons, I think.
Yeah, you ducked out around there. So they do a Court of Owls thing in Gotham, where it's like, because obviously Bruce Wayne's young then, so they're still there. Do you know what I mean? And they are a thing, and it's the best season of Batman TV that you ever watch. And it's not even really about Batman, but the Court of Owls are very present, and they are pulling all of the strings, and it's so well done. Sick. So I'm keen to see what they do in video game terms with that, and then moving just into Suicide Squad. Because we've got like 8 minutes left. Just a nope. I was a nope when I first saw it, and I'm still a nope now. I don't like the voice acting. It's doing that uncanny valley thing that the Avengers game did, and the actors are not doing it for me. I'm bored to death of the Suicide Squad. Like, I would much rather. I'm on the same page as you. I want this to just be a Justice League game. Yep. If they've made the Justice League, which from the trailer we've seen, they have made the Justice League. We saw Superman, we saw Green Lantern. Yep. We didn't see Batman, but we saw like car. Everybody else.
We saw his car.
Yeah, but not his character model, which we obviously know they already have. This is Rocksteady.
I think we saw Wonder Woman's lasso as well. I think.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman's in it. Like you see
we know they all are.
Yeah, like. You see Brainiac's ship and all that kind of stuff in the trailers all the time, but this is the first time you finally see glimpses of the Justice League members are under control by Brainiac, because they're all like messed up looking. Yeah. And Wonder Woman's the only one that's not affected, and there's a little sequence where she fights Superman, and I was like, holy fuck. Oh my god, I want to see this shit. But yeah, like the whole being a Suicide Squad in this Justice League game, or this Justice League story, man, if Wonder Woman's the only one that's not affected, I would just gladly play a Wonder Woman versus Justice League game or something, where she has to save the League from Brainiac or something, if that's what they want to do. Because Wonder Woman's the hotness and everything these days, and Superman's always has to be the bad guy for some stupid reason. But that aspect, that side of the story, I'm like, I want to see how that turns out. And it's DC, I'm probably going to be there anyway. I'm probably going to turn up for it. I just hope it doesn't have, like, the trailers already for this game are kind of grating on me as far as the humor and like the slapstick of it, and how everything has to be a joke, even though it's actually a fucking serious thing that's going on. Like Brainiac's taken over, and the Justice League are all like fucked up. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
it might be.
nerding
It
out.
might become a bit too much. It's like when the Deadpool game was out, and it's like, can you be with Deadpool for 15 hours straight, just with constant Deadpool jokes? Like that's a long time. I think the reason why Suicide Squad trailer didn't move it for me is just because we just don't know how the game plays, like at all.
Still no gameplay, right?
That's what's probably the most frustrating. It's like you could have shown this trailer maybe last year. Obviously, it wouldn't have been ready, but both trailers are from last year and this year are trying to represent the same thing. So I'm like, well, what are you? Like they just needed something to show, obviously. So that's why I think it's a long way away because they haven't even shown gameplay of it, which is very worrying.
Very true. Just to throw in a bit of Zack Snyder love into this conversation, the little shot that you see with Wonder Woman versus Superman, it's a direct rip out of Man of Steel when he gets tackled by the Kryptonians in Smallville, and he's like being pinned down and he's hit vision across. I'm like, oh fuck yes! Oh my god. Zack Snyder is the template, as everybody says these days. Yeah.
Also, I'm going back to Gotham Knights for a sec. I think one of the disappointing things also is that everyone's like, oh, it's so good that this studio, Montreal, gets to, put their impact and make their own game, not have to follow the Rocksteady world and universe. But they've created a very, like, the same looking universe and everything. Yes. So I'm like, well, it's not like you're really putting like this massive imprint, like this is how our Robin looks, or this is how our, Batgirl is a new character in terms of like the costume and everything. So you're like, you get to do that, but they're all the same characters. So
which is weird,
they
right?
look exactly the same, and I'm like, well, why not just put it in the same universe then?
Suicide Squad is the one that's in the Arkhamverse, and Gotham Knights isn't. you know, like I would have thought it'd be the other way around. But go figure.
Win.
Yes.
Yeah, some silly stuff that they're well, like you said, that whole company are doing some silly stuff. So let's see how they manage to hard reset the lot and then fail again next time, right?
Yeah.
not to end on a downer, but we are coming fresh out of time. I very much enjoyed this conversation this week, guys. It's nice to just free flow with not really much of a plan.
Yes.
Have a bit of a more personal conversation.
It's good.
And we will see you next week for episode 70 something. Forgot. I checked. I said right at the start, if you do a rewind, that I know what episode number this is. I've forgot already. But I hope you both have a nice week. And we will do this again next week.
Indeed.
See ya.